interesting action, Scott. And I know you're not a stock analyst, but Merck immediately sold off about 4 or 5%. From this news, we know that the UK, I think it was just yesterday or the day before, gave authorization to use their therapeutic, their COVID therapeutic. Does this, from what you can tell, and I know you're on the board of Pfizer, people say, do we ever disclose that? That's sometimes I think we don't have much time left for the interview. We disclose it so much. Do you feel that this Pfizer drug is shown better efficacy than the Merck drug, with perhaps less concern about mutagenicity or other side effects?
Well, look, there weren't comparative trials done. The bottom line is we have an overwhelming toolbox right now to combat COVID, and this is a phenomenal result. This exceeded any reasonable expectation, with all the usual caveats that this was a trial that was stopped early by the Data Monitoring Committee for overwhelming efficacy. I think the bottom line is the end of the pandemic, at least as it relates to the United States, is in sight right now, given all the tools we have to combat this disease. Now, we still have to get through this Delta wave. Unfortunately, we're not going to be able to vaccinate our way out of it. These therapeutics are coming too late to really affect that wave of infection. But once we get through this Delta wave of infection over the course of the next 2 months, I think that this therapeutic and the other innovations that we've seen coming to market really mark the end of the pandemic for the United States. And we need to think about how we put that, victory sign on the side of the White House, how we declare victory over this pandemic, at least here in the United States.
Everyone stresses that this should not be in any way thought of as an either or for getting vaccinated. But as contentious as that issue is in mandatory vaccine, and I'm not even sure, in the past you've said you don't know whether the carrot or the stick might work better. But do you think this might alleviate some of the what's been very divisive in terms of government mandates or mandates, people losing their jobs because they don't get vaccinated? Because it could be as early as December, perhaps, that this was actually on the market, maybe?
Well, look, this isn't in lieu of vaccination. We still need to try to vaccinate the public. This is going to be a backstop for people who have a breakthrough infection despite vaccination that's being studied for breakthrough infections, people who don't respond well to vaccines, and people who can't get vaccinated for whatever reason. I think the bottom line, though, is that these mandates that are going to be put in place by January 4th really are coming on the tail end of this pandemic. By January 4th, this pandemic may well be over, at least as it relates to the United States, after we get through this Delta wave of infection, and we'll be in more of an endemic phase of this virus. In my hometown here in Connecticut, we have 5 cases per 100,000 people per day, and we lifted our mask mandate yesterday. I mean, at those levels, those are the lowest levels that we've seen at any point in this pandemic, even going back last summer. So we are nearing the end of this pandemic as it relates to the United States. I think the availability of therapeutics like this that could be used to help people who have breakthrough infections, people who don't respond well to vaccination, the small number of people who have decided to forego vaccination, really demarcate the end of this pandemic phase of this virus. And we're going to have to deal with this as a more endemic risk. And remember also, just finally, we've vaccinated about 80% of eligible adults. I mean, we've been very successful in this country at vaccinating the adult population, and the uptake so far in the 5 to 11 vaccine has been very brisk. So there's been a lot of Americans who've made the decision to go out and get vaccinated, do the responsible thing, and protect themselves and their families.